Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new franchise ranking, and this franchise ranking is going to be for the Jurassic Park films. So, for those that probably do not know, I officially love all the Jurassic Park films. Guys, well, except for one of them, which I'm going to get to, but for start off this ranking, let's get off with what is easily the best film in the series, and definitely my second favorite Steven Spielberg movie of all time, and that is Jurassic Park. And that, which was released in 1993 and adapted from the 1990 novel the same name. And what's the movie about? Well, paleontologists Alan Grant and Ellie Setter and mathematical Ian McComb are among a selected group chosen to tour an island theme park populated by dinosaurs created from prehistoric DNA. While the park's mastermind, billionaire John Hammond, assures everyone that the facility is safe, they find out otherwise when various ferocious predators break free and go on the hunt. This film is a masterpiece in every aspect, and definitely one of the greatest films in the 90s, and here's why. Starters, it's got some groundbreaking visual special effects for the dinosaurs, especially the animatronics that still hold up today. The special effects artists Sal Tippett, Dennis Muren, and late legendary Stan Winston later won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Especially in the iconic kitchen sequences, the raptors are portrayed by guys wearing suits, and it's well done because you can't tell if they're CGI rendered or played by guys in suits. Some amazing acting, especially from Sam Neill, Richard Attenborough, and Jeff Goldblum. Wayne Knight is also good as the villain Dennis Nedry. It's a fantastic, thrilling, sometimes beautiful score composed by none other than legendary Don Williams, especially the main theme. And this was his 12th collaboration with Spielberg after 1991's Hook and 1999's Always. Releasing the story, despite taking liberties, follows plot key elements from the novel, and was also written by Michael Crichton, the author of the novel. The fight between the T-Rex and the Raptors is very awesome. Memorable characters, specifically Alan Grant and Ian McComb. The T-Rex terrified many people, further proving how advanced the special effects are. Like some pretty scary moments, like when the T-Rex first appears in the dark in the opening scene. Speaking of the opening scene, it is great, and it is like a wild cross between King Kong and Area 51 stuff. And the entire park itself is very amazing looking, as it was shot in Kauai, which is actually a nice place. Some very good cinematography, excellent directing from Steven Spielberg, excellent pacing that was purposeful and taut, considering the film was 2 hours and 6 minutes long. Some great and memorable quotes, such as Clever Girl, which later became a very well-known meme. Other great dialogue like, Dr. Grant, my dear Mr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park, and we have a T-Rex. The poster by the late John Alvin is well done. There are also some very well-drawn alternate posters too. And of course, some amazing sound mixing. I think for the bad qualities that there are some continuing errors, like during the birth of the baby raptor, there's a robotic arm behind the leg, but it disappears when the raptor is born, so it doesn't need to be noticed. Though the dialogue is great, some parts are rather odd and not the kind of stuff you hear in real life, and it kind of deviates from and leaves out parts of the book, most of which would have been beneficial. But other than that, I honestly don't care. I give this movie a flat out 10 out of 10. It's still the best film in the series and probably always will be. Eventually, due to this movie being a box office success, we then immediately got what was the first sequel to Jurassic Park in 1997. And that movie was called The Lost World Jurassic Park. And while it is a sequel to Jurassic Park, Alan and Sattler don't come back in this movie, and this one it's about Ian McComb, Jeff Goldblum's character. So in a way, it's kind of like a spin-off based on his character, because it's kind of Ian McComb's movie. But what is this film about? Well, 4 years after Jurassic Park, the now humble John Hammond wants to study the progress of the prehistoric living relics that roam free on the secluded island of Isla Sorna. InGen's dino engineering site reluctantly, Ian McComb joins the expedition in the reptile-infested local. Along with his paleologist friend Sarah Harding, the documentarian, Nick Van Owen, and the tech expert Eddie Carr. Unbeknownst to them, that Hammond's nephew Peter is hell-bent on capturing a wide array of primeval species for a San Diego prehistoric zoo. However, who can harness the raw strength of the ultimate apex predator? Tyrannosaurus Rex? Well, now, this movie is still a great movie, but it's not as good as the first one. However, I could still consider it a very decently good sequel, despite that. And I don't care what anybody else says. Here's why the movie's still good. It's very good follow-up to the first film, even if it's not as good as the first film. The CGI of the dinosaurs is still amazing at best, and the special effects for the dinosaurs, especially animatronics, that still hold up today. Great action sequences, such as escaping from the vehicle from the cliffhanger. The visual effects, just like the first movie, are still awesome as usual. Some decent acting, especially for Jeff Goldblum and the newer casters, despite some characters were not too good. The idea of having a sequel, rather than taking place in Isla Nublar, the sequel takes place in Isla Sorna, which is a good idea. The area has lots of abandoned places, dinosaurs, and this is a great title for The Lost World. Decent pacing is still purposeful and taut from the first movie, considering the film is 2 hours and 9 minutes long. Cinematography is still as amazing as the first film. Still does have room to suspense and even scares, and still has a darker and suspenseful tone from the first movie, and even has scary deaths throughout the movie. The soundtrack that was performed by legendary John Williams still has thrilling and sometimes beautiful score. Not only that, it's still amazing as it the way it is. The T-Rex's rampage at the end of the movie is very awesome, and now, the reason why it's not as good as the first one is because, well, it sometimes turns the awe-inspiring Jurassic Park film into a generic by the numbers run away from dinosaurs movie. Some boring dialogue about the father-daughter relationship. Some of the character developments aren't as good as they used to be in the first movie. This time, Ian McComb goes from a wisecracking comic relief from the first one to this boring father who doesn't contribute much to the story. Kelly's better than most of the characters, but she barely contributes to the story and is the typical kid appeal character. And Sarah Harding is a very annoying character and a total idiot, even though she claims to be a paleontologist. Oh, dear God. And the writing can be awkward at times, and the bits around San Francisco are a little cheesy. And the first half of the movie can be a little boring at times compared to the original. And Alan from the first one doesn't return, but technically, this wasn't his film. This is meant to be Ian McComb's film, so... Sorry that. So yeah, this was meant to be Ian's film, so I can see why he's not in it. But all in all, how would I rank this movie? I'd rank it an 8 out of 10. It's not as good as the first film, but it's still a fun watch nonetheless. Especially compared to the next film I'm about to get to. And that easily, which is the worst Jurassic Park movie. Yes, guy, yes, Fallen Kingdom haters. This to me is still the worst. And this movie is for Jurassic Park 3. Boy. Let's just say what the movie's about first. Well, after being persuaded by a wealthy businessman to conduct an aerial tour of Isla Sorna, InGen's second site for a failed Jurassic Park experiment, Alan Grant discovers the true reason for his invitation. A tragic accident maroons the party of 7, and they must attempt to escape with their lives. Dear God. There's just so many problems with this movie. For starters, the movie just died, like Empire Fan Productions, when he did franchise ranking videos before he retired from reaction videos. And when he ranked Jurassic Park, he had a point. The movie died when the T-Rex died. Basically, if you're just gonna abruptly kill the T-Rex, then, well, you don't have a movie. And it's not a Jurassic Park movie, then what's the point of even making this? This film, also, there's mediocre cinematography, and it feels more like a directed DVD movie rather than a theatrical film. The plot is literally rehashed in the previous two films. And designers can never seem to do a dinosaur The designers can never seem to do a dinosaur design that works out. The dinosaurs are supposed to be threatening, but that ones that are supposed to be threatening anyways, are either useless or unintentionally cute. And the ones that aren't supposed to be harmless are frightening and hideous. There's this major plot hole where the earth-shakingly loud dinosaurs can somehow sneak up on people without a sound for some reason. And don't. There is this one really stupid scene in the movie that I know you're probably all already thinking of what I'm about to mention. Alan has this bad dream while during the flight to the area, and this dinosaur appears in his dream, and it talks. Guess what? Yeah, it talks. And it goes, Alan, before he wakes up, like, that is not funny. That's just cringeworthy and really stupid. And that just makes the movie look like a joke. Yeah, well, then again, that's another problem. This movie is way too toned down. They practically removed the dark tone from the first two movies that made it all lighthearted and kid-friendly. Yeah, they went the RoboCop 3 and Blade Trinity route with that, like that when has that ever worked with the third movies? Hollywood. Like, basically, the ending also sucks because it has various army tanks and helicopters show up to rescue the characters. That literally doesn't make a lot of sense. It is never explained that nobody could tell the army when Eric was in trouble. And when Nostalgia Critic reviewed the film, he even points out, this group of pterodactyls that previously attacked the heroes were looking for a new nesting ground and were flying towards the character's homeland, yet somehow the film treats that as a happy ending. Like, how are a group of pterodactyls that attack the main characters are flying to the character's home supposed to be happy? How is that supposed to be a happy ending if they're dangerous? Whatever. I don't want to get into more. If there are some good qualities, I mean, Alan did like that Alan Grant returned, and so that was a good sign. And there, well, it relies a lot less on scenes about dinosaurs killing humans, with only 3 deaths on screen against the many scenes of its prequel. But all in all, guys, this movie sucks in every way. Yeah, this film is the worst. I hate it. I give it a 4 out of 10. This pretty much murdered the Jurassic Park series for 14 years. Yeah, 14 years. Because then, in 2015, we finally got the second best Jurassic Park movie since the first film, and that was Jurassic World. And released in 2015. What is this movie about? Well, located off the coast of Costa Rica, the Jurassic World Luxury Resort provides a habitat for an array of genetically engineered dinosaurs, including the vicious and intelligent Indominus Rex. When the massive creature escapes, it sets off a chain of reaction that causes their dinosaurs to run amok. Now, it's up to a former military man and animal expert, Chris Pratt, to use his special gifts to save 2 young brothers, and the rest of the tourists from an all-out prehistoric assault. Why does this movie rock? And it's just as good as the first one? Well, okay, the first one's still better, but it's second best. Well, it strongly connects to the first 3 films, the way it looks, and it looks less like another cash grab reboot like Star Wars, and more of a tribute to the original film that we all grew up watching. The entire Jurassic World theme park still looks amazing, just as amazing as the Jurassic Park theme park from the very first movie. Cool action scenes, good acting, and especially from Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, who've done great performances, and B.D. Wan returns as Dr. Henry Wu in this movie, which is also nice, and the Indominus Rex is an awesome dinosaur, and her design is really cool. Still some intense and scary scenes. And the scene where Zach and Gray find the old Jurassic Park is a really heartfelt scene because it gives you a nostalgic feeling about the original film. Some great cinematography, really good soundtrack by Michael Giacchino. But of course there are still some pretty bad qualities. The illumination like CGI is something to get used to. A lot of the human characters aren't very memorable, have little to no traits that make them stand out. Most of the film's plot is a repeat of the first film. The staff has basically learned nothing from their previous mistakes, the fences are still easy to bust through, the security is still awful, and the Wi-Fi often gets out whenever the plot commands it. Like, InGen's plan makes no sense, they're strapping cameras on barely trained raptors' heads and using them to hunt terrorists in Afghanistan. Okay? And there are so many plot holes within the film, how it should have ended had enough for a full video. Like, there's a brief scene where Claire decides to go in her car to call the control room to track the Indominus Rex where she could have just called her from where she was. And maybe don't have a dinosaur-sized gate in the habitat the I-Rex can fit through to escape, or at least put a moat around the hybrid creature. It's not like this is anything new. There are various scenes where a Jurassic driver could run into something on the ground that could block their sight, so maybe the Jurassic was poorly thought out. Somehow, the boys were able to take a 20-year-old Jeep, repair him pretty quickly. Just changing the Jeep's battery isn't enough. Any gasoline in the tank would have long become unusable, and the tires and lines would have rotted away, and the electrics would all be dead. Some of the dinosaurs had shocking trackers which they could have used against the pterodons attacking people, and when the raptors and the I-Rex were communicating with each other, Owen, Barry, and the other Velociraptor trainers had a perfect shooting opportunity for the I-Rex which they never took advantage of. Wild animals of behavior and size similar to those of the raptors are really tough to train and control, especially when out of their cages, so returning them to their cages should have not been that easy, and Claire should have not been able to outrun the T-Rex in high heels. But whatever, despite those plot holes, I would rank this movie a 9 out of 10. It's second best Jurassic Park film since behind the first film. It was a perfect way to bring back Jurassic Park after Jurassic Park 3 murdered it. So, since the franchise was back and making more money than ever, Universal went and decided to make Jurassic World like first Jurassic Park into a trilogy called the Jurassic World Trilogy. And the second installment they would use would be called Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, released in 2018. So, and now, I was pretty hyped for this movie, like really hyped, because I love Jurassic World 1, so I couldn't wait to see this movie. So when I did see the film, it was decent, but I was definitely the second weakest. But what is Fallen Kingdom about? Well, 3 years since the Jurassic World theme park and luxury resort was destroyed by dinosaurs on containment, Isla Nublar now sits abandoned by humans while the surviving dinosaurs fend for themselves in the jungles. While the island's dormant volcano begins roaring to life, Owen and Claire mount in a campaign to rescue the remaining dinosaurs from this extinction-level threat. Owen is driven to find Blue, his lead raptor who is still missing in the wild, and Claire has grown a respect for these creatures. She now makes her mission. Arriving on the unstable island as lava begins raining down, their expedition uncovers a conspiracy that could return our entire planet in a perilous order not seen since prehistoric times. Well, I'll get to the good qualities. 1. Once again, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard still give amazing performances. Great soundtrack, especially the original themes from John Williams. The scene with the Baby Raptor squad is not only adorable, but they also remember Delta, Charlie, and Echo, the other raptors who died in the previous film. The Indoraptor was a decent successor over the Indominus Rex, despite having poor execution. And I like they went much darker than any other Jurassic Park film in the series, and which was very welcoming change of pace and leads to some legit scary scenes, and pretty legit scary and violent scenes. And like the previous films, the visual effects are still good. The bad qualities are bland and stereotypical villains with cheap and uninspired motivations. It's never clear like what's supposed to happen to Side B from the previous films, and the Mosasaurus' pen was moved from the middle of the island to the edge in between films, and has apparently been in this pen the whole time, leading to these questions about what exactly is supposed to happen eating, even with its bizarre psychic ability to sense things that are going on above it. And it doesn't even help that the pen for some reason suddenly has a giant gate. Its only function is allowing it to escape into the open ocean. And despite appearing heavily in the trailers and posters, like the T-Rex is only in the movie for like a handful of times. And then we get a new hybrid dinosaur, the Indoraptor, which is only mentioned briefly before and is only seen at the end of the film. Mediocre visuals like with the yellow submarine in the beginning of the film sticking out like a sore thumb. And issues with every new character in the film, like Franklin Webb is this cowardly id-esque character whose only purpose of the trip is to open the door, and Zia Rodriguez is a strong and independent paleo-veterinarian. Neither of these characters have any personality, they barely serve any real purpose in the story. In fact, these two specific characters disappear halfway through and only come back to save Blue. Maisie Lockwood is a rather annoying character, and she's also a clone of her mother, which is bizarre and unnecessary, only being used to create an ending which makes very little sense. And Blue is inconsistent with her portrayal in the previous film. Like, in the previous film, she was portrayed as a vicious and unpredictable animal who will gladly bite the hand that feeds her. Yet here she's the nicest raptor ever who has always liked Owen. The story is unoriginal, like, it has a similar fashion to The Lost World, at times. There's still some laughable dialogue. And the ending also is a bad part. Dinosaurs are about to all die to their cages from a leak of some form of poisonous gas. The main characters are given a choice to either save the dinosaurs or let them die once and for all. And it comes down to Claire Deering, who decides to let them die as they've been known to be dangerous and deadly around other people, as seen in the previous installments. However, Maisie decides to release them because she is one of them. Like, Maisie's had a traumatic experience with dinosaurs tearing people apart, and the Indoraptor in particular chasing around the house. A small girl her age normally would have not been in the right set of mind or mood. Allowing the dinosaurs to live rather than die ruins a potentially emotional ending that would have made genius changes to the series. And by freeing the dinosaurs, the carnivores are also free now. The ending even shows that T-Rex at a zoo, a place usually filled with innocent families. The freed dinosaurs would also cause destruction and slaughter innocent people, and slaughter all the other animals at the zoo, and this is played out as a happy ending? And due to the aforementioned fact that the dinosaurs would be poorly suited to fighting humans, any escaped dinosaurs would be either rounded back up, shot by private citizens, or killed by National Guardsmen within days. So releasing them at best ensured they'd be captured again, and at worst just got them all killed in a slightly different way. Most of the younger dinosaur species all have natural reproduction. As known in Jurassic Park, rather than all of them still being closer, a claim of fellowship with them is dubious to say the least. And, well, I think the other good quality is that the Brachiosaurus' death scene. It was confirmed that that dinosaur who died, the Brachiosaurus, was actually the very first dinosaur of the franchise, so it was the first dinosaur seen in the first Jurassic Park film, so yeah, it ends up, so that basically makes it one of the most emotional, heart-taking scenes in the entire franchise, but all in all, now, I don't consider this a terrible movie by any means, but I would give it a 7 out of 10. While it's still a decent follow-up to Jurassic World, it is the second weakest of the series. So, I finished talking about the Jurassic Park films, so how would I rank the movies? Well, number 1 best, Jurassic Park. Number 2, Jurassic World. 3rd place, The Lost World. 4th place, Fallen Kingdom. And bottom worst, Jurassic Park 3. That's how I'd rank the Jurassic Park movies. And until then, that'll be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. If you liked this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.